Hello, and welcome to another vlog. This week's theme is Hydrocephalus. Anyone who's watched this vlog in the past will know the drill. On Thursday I'll be releasing another video in which I talk in more detail about this week's topic, so subscribe if you want to see that video. Of course, today there's a number of other things I'd like to talk about. First, I'd like to talk about a good friend of mine, Adam Denney, and some of the challenges he's faced as a person with a disability. I'd also like to talk about the different types of hydrocephalus and some of the characteristics of each. And I'd also like to talk about some of the different types of shunts that are used to treat hydrocephalus. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So my friend Adam Denney has decided that he's going to start a YouTube series to talk about some of his experiences as a person with a disability. And I'm excited about this because not only is Adam a good friend of mine, but I think it's important for us to have a lot more YouTubers with disabilities because it's a group of people that, we don't always hear from enough. And I think it's important that we have more YouTubers with disabilities so uh, people outside of the disabled community can learn more about what it's like to live with a disability. So I'm excited that he's starting this. Um, Now, he released a video late last week in which he talked about some of the challenges he's faced as a person with a disability, specifically relating to sports. Um, you see, saying that Adam is a sports fan would be an understatement. He is a hardcore sports fanatic. He's been involved in many sports himself, including athletics and sledge hockey, and he's currently helping to coach some junior hockey teams. So as you can see, he's very involved in the area of sports and he's very passionate about it. And so he talks about some of the challenges that he's faced in relation to that and how he's managed to realize his dreams. So click the card up above if you want to see that video, which I encourage you to do because it's a very interesting video and Adam has some great advice in it that I think we could all benefit from receiving. So please check out his video and subscribe to his channel if you want to see other videos that he might be releasing in the future. So that brings me to the next thing that I want to talk about today, which is the different types of hydrocephalus. So as I'll explain in the video on Thursday, hydrocephalus is a neurological condition and it's characterized by the buildup of excess cerebrospinal fluid in the ventricles of the brain, which can cause some symptoms which we'll talk about in that video. But today I want to talk a little bit about the different types of hydrocephalus. I'll be touching on that briefly in Thursday's video, but I think it's a good idea to kind of expand on that today. So there are many different types of hydrocephalus. There's congenital hydrocephalus, which basically means that you're born with it. But then there's also acquired hydrocephalus, which means that the condition develops following birth. And there's different ways that these two types of hydrocephalus can be further classified. There's types of hydrocephalus. There's one called communicating hydrocephalus, and then there's one called non-communicating hydrocephalus or obstructive hydrocephalus. And basically, these conditions, these forms of hydrocephalus, are differentiated by the way the cerebral spinal fluid flows in the brain. So in communicating hydrocephalus, the cerebrospinal fluid is blocked after leaving the ventricles in the brain. Whereas with non-communicating hydrocephalus, the cerebrospinal fluid is obstructed while it's in the tubes that connect the different ventricles of the brain. And then there's two other types of hydrocephalus. There's hydrocephalus ex vacuo and normal pressure hydrocephalus, and I hope I'm pronouncing that first one right. And both of these forms of hydrocephalus are primarily affecting adults, and they tend to be caused by sickness or injury. Now, of course, this is a very simplified explanation of the different types of hydrocephalus. Um, I encourage everyone to check out the additional resources in Thursday's video if you want to learn more about it. So finally, that brings me to the last thing I want to talk about, which is the different types of shunts that are used to treat hydrocephalus. Now, there are other treatments for hydrocephalus, but the use of shunts is the main way to treat the condition. A shunt is essentially a artificial device used to regulate the flow of bodily fluids. In this case, we're talking about the cerebrospinal fluid in the brain, because that's the part of the body in question when it comes to hydrocephalus. So there's three main types of shunts that are used to treat hydrocephalus. You've got one called the ventroperitoneal, one called the ventroatrial, and one called the lumbar peritoneal. So a ventroperitoneal shunt is used to drain the fluid from the ventricle in the brain into the abdominal cavity. Then we've got the, like I said, the ventroatrial, which is used to drain the cerebrospinal fluid from the ventricles in the brain down to the right atrium of the heart. And finally, there's the lumbar peritoneal, which is used to drain the fluid from the brain into the peritoneal cavity. And the different types of shunts that are used vary depending on the person's needs, and specific diagnosis and symptoms will determine what type of shunt is used to treat which form of hydrocephalus. And like I said, there are other treatments for hydrocephalus, but shunts is the main form of treatment for the condition. And like many other conditions that we've talked about in this series, once hydrocephalus is managed, people with the condition can live full lives. So that basically is a brief overview of the different types of hydrocephalus and the different treatments for it. Like I said, I'll talk a lot more about this in Thursday's video, so check that out if you want to learn more. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you guys found it interesting and learned a lot from it. If you did, hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I'll see you on Thursday. Thanks for watching.